How are stars born? They are not born. They make themselves. Or should I say they come into existence because of a powerful force of nature called gravity. The next guest in the show today is a rising star. I mean, he has stood his ground and worked hard even as calamity struck at each point in time in his life. And he has risen out of the dust. Let's welcome Abhishek, Senior Salesforce Developer from MTX. Hey Abhishek.
Hi Kiran, how are you doing?
It's a pleasure having you in our show today. And the reason is your life is such an inspiration. You're young, but you've already seen so many things in life. And it has made you more hardworking, more stronger, and more matured. Your dad was a great human being, and your mom really worked hard. Tell us a little about your story.
So if I start about my childhood and if I talk about my parents, I think they're one of the biggest blessings that I've received in my life. They've done so much for me in the past 28 years that I'll eternally be grateful for everything. My dad was a businessman until 2006 when my grandmother expired, and that's when my life took a U-turn. You could basically, there was a shift. Imagine living in your own house like a tenant and trying to make ends meet, having no income, just living off rents. My mom is basically, she's a superwoman. She's done so much for me. I mean, she also gave tuitions to kids in my area, and then she's also done stitching and tailoring and all these, any kind of petty work that could get her some form of money. She has done that just to get me the things that I wanted at that time, so they could satisfy my needs, or which is something that I'm really, really grateful for.
Your mom is such an inspiration. Trust me, you're blessed. You're blessed to have parents like that. Abhishek, you've really worked hard, but there is a lot of fun side to you as well. You dance, you're a great artist. I've seen some of your paintings. And also tell us this, incident which happened in your college, maybe in your 12th class. What happened with your Sanskrit teacher that day?
So firstly, let's not call it 12th class. Let's call it intermediate. You cannot call it 12th.
Okay.
So for people who don't know, once you finish your schooling in Hyderabad, in Hyderabad and in Andhra Pradesh, you'd find these colleges called Narayana and Chaitanya, which are not co-ed colleges. It's full of boys, and there's a lot of fun in terms of, there's a lot of hooting happening in the background. There are people calling names to the lecturer and things like that. There's this one incident where I wasn't kind of paying attention, or he was too boring. It was a Sanskrit class. So he asked me to get up, and then he was like, Abhishek, please get out of the class. And that day I was like, why should I get out of the class? I'm paying fees here. I will not get out of the class. And that event didn't quite go well. It transpired into a few other events.
You're not the right person to have in the classroom. You need to be out in the real life. You're so energetic. They can't put you in a classroom. I understand that. Now, tell us the story behind on how you actually got into Salesforce Ecosystem, Abhishek.
So this, I would say, it was basically my stars aligning at the right time, at the right place. So like I told you about, like I gave you this story about DBMS. So I actually flunked in my generic training. So when you flunk, you have 2 weeks to give a reassessment, and I gave a reassessment. After I cleared that, I was put into Java for the stream trainings. From there, after I finished my Java training finally, I got this location for Bhubaneswar, and they had a plan to start a Salesforce unit in Bhubaneswar, and that is where and that was the reason why I was reskilled on SFDC. So even then, I didn't even know what Salesforce was. I just knew these four terms: SFDC, and then there was this that you're being reskilled on this code. and that is all I knew about it. And then I had to come down to Hyderabad, and that is where I got reskilled on Salesforce. And that's where I learned about the product. I learned about what CRM is. I learned about how amazing the ecosystem is. At the beginning, I knew what Trailblazer community was in terms of I knew it as success.salesforce.com, if people remember that. Because we are that
Success
old
dot.
that we
Yeah.
we started from classic, and we remember the old Trailblazer community as well. Now it's so 2021. If you look at it, it's so good right now.
That's how you got into the Salesforce ecosystem. Maybe you failed so many times, which is why your process got delayed, and then you ended up somehow into Salesforce killing. Blessing in disguise. Now, now tell me this: what was your first project, and what are some of the learnings that you take from that?
So the first project, I mean, the way I got that project was also again cosmic dance, or universe aligning the stars for me in the right direction at the right time at the right place. So I was in Bhubaneswar, and I was looking for projects. I mean, I was reaching out to a lot of people from different units in Hyderabad, and there was this one person called Ashok Reddy Nomala sir, and he responded saying there's a requirement. You talk to this project manager called Venkat Subbarao, and I spoke to him, and within 2 days he tells me within 2 hours he tells me, Abhishek, please come down to Hyderabad for 12 weeks. If you want, you can stay. If you want, we can make it permanent, or it's up to you. I mean, anything that you choose.
That
And I
was such
like,
good news. That was such good news because Hyderabad is your hometown, right?
Yes. So it was so if you know a little about how transfers work in Infosys, this was basically it's something that shouldn't happen in the first place, because this was without any process, without anything. I just landed in Hyderabad in 5 days just after trying this, and I'm really grateful that it happened. So when I came down to Hyderabad, the first project that I was given was on SCLM, uh, supply chain, and it was for the sixth biggest American food and beverage company, that was Kraft Heinz. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm working for a really big client, and I'm getting to see all of their products. And I'm such a foodie that I used to find happiness looking at Salesforce records, which have all their fancy names, mayonnaise, ketchup, and all the different things of their products were listed there. And the first task that was given to me was to write a test class for a batch class. And I was like, okay, first let me learn what test class is. Then I had to learn what a batch class is. And then somehow I tried to approach, and I tried to I tried to complete that task. I had to take help, but I did it using the success community. So that is when I learned about success community. So this was and so when I first got into this project, initially I was given the role of a developer, where I was doing tiny changes in code, writing test classes. I was writing triggers. Then there were some configuration changes and administration level things that are generally a part of the sprint, and they were giving me more work based on how I was performing. So that was the first project, and I still remember till
Right.
date.
See, you have come such a long way, Abhishek. You have come such a long way, and now you are, an Einstein Analytics consultant, Tableau consultant, and you code as well. It's a beautiful journey that you have been through in the last 4 to 5 years. Abhishek, what is that one useful developer tip that you want to give to our audience today?
Sometimes it's so when you write code and when you implement a feature, uh, it's I mean, most of the times it is available in the community, or it is available in the Salesforce help documentation. You'll find the syntax, you'll find a snippet, and you can do it. uh, but there are some occasions where you might implement something tricky. So it's from my side, I think what you should be doing is you should be documenting those tips. You should be documenting that code, writing down how you implemented it, and maybe make like a micro blog or a micro article just for your reference, at least for your future. Uh, but but then this will also help you in future in creating your own blog, or in being a multiplier and sharing the knowledge, and the more knowledge you share, the more you learn, the more it will come back to you. So I am a strong believer of that. This is a tip that I have for everyone.
That's why I call you a star. That's why I call you a star. Thanks for a wonderful tip, Abhishek.
Thank
Okay,
you so much.
now tell me, why do you love the Trailblazer community?
If you have any question, if you have any doubt, it is, I mean, it is also possible that someone else also might have gotten the same doubt before, and they might have asked the same question before, and it is highly likely that someone from the Salesforce team or someone from the Trailblazer community has already answered it there. So I think that is something amazing, that you get support while you're working on the technology from the fellow Trailblazers who are also working on it. This is one thing. The next thing is the ability to not just be locally, I mean, not just make the most out of Salesforce ecosystem locally, but also internationally. For example, now the way I see it, I like how Twitter is an amazing medium, and how Salesforce uses how all Salesforce professionals use Twitter to share their journey, to ask doubts, or to reach out. So this one thing that I feel that was really amazing was, now if you know what you're doing, and if you know how to approach someone, and if you have the right intent, and if you ask a question, no matter who it is highly likely that you'll get a response from them. That kind of connect, I mean, sitting in Hyderabad, sitting in India, and being able to connect with someone in US who's a veteran, or who's an MVP, or who's someone who works for Salesforce, that in itself is really amazing. I mean, Trailblazer community is the best in that sense. And
you make
and
you make such a good point. Salesforce community is a family without boundaries, right? We are not
Yes.
limited by regions or religions. Abhishek, what is your goal going forward? You've already achieved so much at a very young age. What's your goal going forward?
I mean, currently, the only goal that I see is, as of now, I see CT. As of now, I want to become a CTA in the next 4 or 5 years, and try to help the community as much as I can. I mean, being a trailblazer in itself means to find your way, and I think, if you look at my journey from my college taught me. So Hitam, its tagline was "Find your path." Infosys taught me to navigate your next, and then MTX is teaching me to raise the bar. So I feel like in this order, I feel CTA is something that I want to aim at, which is a little far fetched, but I'll try my best to get there. I'll put in the efforts, and I'll do whatever I can to achieve that goal.
Let me tell you, you would be one of the youngest CTAs I will know in future. You are
Wow.
you are destined to be one. I see you.
Wow.
I see you making it happen. All the very best. Before we go, the other day I couldn't help but notice a timer on your laptop. It said, it is still counting. It said 28 years, 320 days, 16 seconds. Tell us more about that. What is it that you're
Okay.
counting?
So yeah, so there's
And why?
an extension. Yes, I would love to explain that. There's an extension on my phone, on my browser, and it's basically there on all of the screens that I use. It's my age, and it's
Mhm.
called motivation. I know it's nothing like motivation, but it's actually a mortality recoil for me. It reminds me that we are mortal beings, and it's very important to be in the present moment, make the most out of it, and try to give your best, be optimistic, do well. I mean, all of these things, whenever I look at that timer, these are the things that go in my mind, and I feel everyone should value their time a lot, and that's how I see it every day. A lot of my friends, a lot of the people who see it, they get angry. Why do you have something like that on your screen? You're giving me anxiety. But the way I see it is, this is how you keep yourself.
It makes you realize the value of life.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that was perfectly put
It
in one
makes
line.
you realize the value of life, and also let me tell you something. We might be mortal beings, but we can create an impact which is immortal. And
Yes,
I think
definitely.
that is what we should strive for. Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a pleasure talking to you. But before we go, we know that you're a great artist. I've seen some of your work. I just love that work. So we're going to gift you this professional painting kit that you're going to make use of going forward, and give us some masterpieces.
Wow, thank you so much, Kiran. This is exciting, especially when now I'm trying to do stuff finally, do things that I like. So this is amazing.
All the very best, Abhishek. It was great having you on our show.
Thank you so much, Kiran.
Do you like us? Is it? How do we know that?
We are at Golconda.
Okay, do this. Please comment, like, and subscribe to